Throughout human history, art in the form of drawings and paintings, and more recently, animation, has spread across the world in order to communicate, entertain, inform, or even express feelings. Over time, societies across the globe have adopted these art forms as a major part of their culture. Technology has developed with this animation, and society has developed with this technology. We use this technology to entertain, educate, discover, solve crimes, and save lives.
Scenes from the recent blockbuster Avatar demonstrate the pinnacle of innovation in computer animation technology. Beautiful landscapes and essentially a whole story told through the art of animation. But it hasn't always been this advanced. There is evidence of human art in the form of cave drawings dating back as far as 30,000 BC. The Egyptians also used hieroglyphics, which alluded to movement in the drawings and were used as writing. Photography became very popular in the mid-1800s. In 1878, an English photographer, Edward Muybridge, used his skill and created the horse in motion. This feature was captured through a series of stereoscopic cameras and a zooproxiscope, a device where images were projected onto rotating glass discs, giving the illusion of movement.
The illusion of movement was, in reality, a series of photographs taken at a thousandth of a second over 20 feet. The persistence of vision while looking at these images won't allow the brain to distinguish individual images, therefore one sees motion. This is considered the first time that photographs were sequenced to create motion. It was not until 1889 in England that William Paris Green developed the chronophotographic camera capable of taking 10 photographs per second on celluloid film. Thomas Edison had been working on a motion picture system called the kinescope, which he then later modified and termed the kintograph, the first moving picture camera. Edison also introduced celluloid strips of sequence images. Artists or animators redrew only portions of an image, thus making it easier to sequence the images. The inventions of photography and celluloid technology are based on a similar principle. A photograph is essentially a single frame on celluloid film and is viewed at a certain rate of frames per second. It creates the illusion of movement. Movement gives weight, personality, and emotion to an object. It also allowed for the emergence of new characteristics of animation.
The earliest example of animated film was produced by newspaper cartoonist J. Stuart Blackton in 1906 and called Humorous Phases of Funny Faces. This was the first cartoon to use the single frame method, which was projected at 20 frames per second. 2 years later, Francis Emile Choll produced Phantasmagorie, the first fully animated film.
Winsor McCay was the first to establish the technical method of animating graphics. These first cartoons were essentially constructed by drawing each individual frame onto paper by the cartoonist, and each frame was photographed and finally sequenced and viewed through a vintograph. 3 years later, in 1914, McCay produced the first interactive animated movie which combined live action and animation. Gertie the Dinosaur is born.
This brontosaurus showed true emotion while interacting with McCay himself through the cartoon. McCay went on to produce one of the first cel-animated films, which was to help inspire Americans to join the World War I movement in 1918, the sinking of Lusitania. Animation continued to grow, and in 1919, Felix the Cat was born. This feline burst into superstar status along with Oswald the Rabbit. Retailers capitalized on the demand for this cat, and retail merchandising was created. Animation had grown and expanded into pop culture.
About this time, Walt Disney Studios got into their act and began producing silent black and white cartoon shorts and created Oswald the Lucky Rabbit and Mortimer Mouse.
Steamboat Willie was the first cartoon to be synchronized in post-production to music. Mortimer was later renamed to Mickey.
The first film for Disney with audio-video synchronization, or AV-Sync, was The Skeleton Dance. A musical score was provided by Carl Stalling, and it matched up with the actions of the skeletons and characters within the cartoon. Synchronizing these two components adds emotion, emphasizes movement, and adds meaning to the cartoon. The 1933 production of The Three Little Pigs was the first cartoon with multiple characters with distinct, unique personalities. Multiplane camera shots were first used in Disney's The Old Mill.
In 1934, the Fleischer Brothers got interactive with a bouncing ball to draw the audience to sing along. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was the first full-length, color-animated feature-length film. Disney signed an exclusive deal with Technicolor in 1932, which helped in the emphasis on development and characterization in animation.
Max Fleischer made a significant contribution during this time. He developed and implemented the rotoscope, which helped provide smooth movement, depth, and backgrounds, which made animation look lifelike. During this time, animators worked in teams developing and humanizing the characters. Jokes and humor were added, and the timing of the actions were critical. Cartoon shorts were becoming commonplace prior to feature-length films. By 1943, Looney Tunes and Merrie Melodies were both being produced in color. Full-length feature films including Fantasia, Pinocchio, Bambi, and Dumbo were all released by Disney. Animators such as Michael Maltese, Max Fleischer, Hugh Harman, Rudolph Isling, and Tex Avery were only a few of the top animators working for such companies as Looney Tunes, Merrie Melodies, Warner Brothers, Happy Harmonies, and Walt Disney. Humanization was the key to adoration of fans. Societal, political, and satirical situations were all common themes of these cartoons. The implementation of sound, voices, music, refinement of sketches, colorization, personality development, and timing of actions all helped to innovate animation to a new level during this golden age. By the late 50s, most households had a television. People were now content to stay home and receive their entertainment. Cartoons began to show up on TV during the day in shorter time slots. Also during this time, sound effects were added to the characters. Mass production of cartoons in minutes per episode and volume per year had increased. The industry had to simplify animation to cut costs and meet the demand of society. The traditional animators soon found themselves out of a job. Bill Hanna and Joseph Barbera, former MGM directors, joined together to fill the need for the new TV animation. They developed Tom and Jerry. Characters during this time were flat and one-dimensional, and all cartoons seemed to have the same old storyline. Animation and storylines had to change and now relied on gags, jokes, and movement, such as chases and stunts, for interest. The crafting of characters and animation was stifled by the cost and demand. Mass production was needed, so it was quantity over quality. Tweening, onion skinning, and morphing are all examples of computerized animation. Two-dimensional computer animation also began to take hold. In 1977, magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, a type of powerful medical imagery, was developed, which uses a powerful magnetic field to align the nuclear magnetization of hydrogen atoms in the water of the human body. The imagery is then relayed through computer animation. In the 1980s, with household computers becoming more popular, computer-generated imagery, or 3D animation, was still developing, but by the mid-80s, it was used in the film industry in films such as Star Trek and Tron. The United States government hired a company to develop a simulation of the crash Delta Flight 91. Experts used the simulation while testifying in court and defending the Department of Defense. Japan became a leading force in animation in the 1980s. In the 1990s, Pixar Animation Studios produced the first fully computer-animated film, Toy Story.
Thanks to the advancements in animation technology over the decades, there have been many innovations in a vast range of industries aside from entertainment. And innovations in other industries, such as military, medical, gaming, and meteorology industries have led to advancements in computer animation.
As the technology marches forward and things get faster and faster and faster, we just expect more from the computers. If you look at visual effects, it's very much a part of ordinary filmmaking now.
Thanks to these hardware advancements and innovations in 3D animation software, companies like MathWorks are able to program software that can accurately predict missile strikes. This same technology can be carried over to predicting weather patterns by NASA.
Say doing a weather pattern, like say for NASA, and then doing something like 2012 where you want to have gigantic waves or you want to have, things crumbling.
As we have demonstrated, the technology developed as a result of animation has vastly improved technological innovations throughout the 20th and 21st century.